Welcome back. You're watching The Right Stand. The implementation of a uniform civil code has been a long-standing manifesto promise of the BJP. While the Modi government has fulfilled its major poll promises, this one still remains. The centre has reignited the debate over this much-anticipated move once again. Months after the centre told the Supreme Court that the Constitution obligated the state to have a uniform civil code for its citizens, the government has now sought views of the public and of religious organizations. It's the Law Commission, the top advisory body of the government, that has come out and made this public appeal. All stakeholders, anybody from the public, they have any suggestions, they have any objections, they can raise all of those with the Law Commission within a span of 30 days. The move, though, has raised some eyebrows. It comes right before the 2024 elections. It's nothing but a poll plank, says the opposition. There is a fierce face-off that has brewed between the BJP and the opposition. But the question still remains, is it the right time to implement the law? Is India even ready for a uniform civil code? If so, if yes, the answer to that is yes, then is it just politics that is delaying this entire process, delaying the process of equality? That's the big question that we're going to be asking here on The Right Stand as well. Now, as far as the Uniform Civil Code is concerned, it divides on both spectrums, and the divide is extremely large. Let's take a look at what the arguments for and against are. The Uniform Civil Code is a common law for all citizens in the country, as opposed to what the personal law says, that most religions have their separate laws and they're allowed to do so. The Uniform Civil Code envisages that irrespective of your religion, gender, caste or personal law, that you will be uniformly governed. As far as the personal law goes, that law is governed by respective scriptures as well, and that is something that is intrinsic to the practice of your own religion as enshrined in the Constitution, which is one of the reasons why there is objection towards a move for a UCC. So if the UCC is implemented, which are the areas that are likely to have an impact? Marriage, divorce, maintenance, inheritance especially, adoption, cessation of property. All of those will be impacted because then there will be a common law that governs irrespective of what religion or what community you belong to. Now, a massive face-off has erupted. The politics is all that we've heard, but what really are the sticky points? Now, as far as the entire issue of the UCC is concerned, now for the law, there's equal status that is given to all citizens. Against the law, the argument is that it's difficult due to diversity in India. The argument for the law is that it gives more rights to women, and that is why a level playing field is required. The discrimination towards women must end. But those who raise objections say that this encroaches upon religious freedom, something that is enshrined in the Constitution. Those who are in favor of the law, they say that personal laws have loopholes. Those who say that this is not something that India needs, they say this is nothing but interference in personal matters. Those supporting the law say that the national integration is extremely important, and which is what a common code will bring in. Those who are not in favor say that the time is not suitable for such a reform. Now, the Law Ministry in July 2016 had asked the Law Commission to study the scope and feasibility of implementing this One India, One Law. Here's what Justice B.S. Chauhan-led panel had said in its report. This report came out in 2018. It said that Uniform Civil Code is not needed right now. UCC is neither necessary nor desirable at this stage, is what the Law Commission back then had said. Secularism cannot contradict plurality in India. Cultural diversity cannot be compromised with. That's also an observation that was made by the previous Law Commission. The urge for uniformity cannot be the reason for a threat to territorial integrity. That's also something that the panel had observed. A unified nation didn't necessarily need to have uniformity. Differences don't always imply discrimination. That's also something the law panel back then had said. Now, there is a new Law Commission. They have thrown open the process. Even as the matter is sub judice, the Supreme Court has raised questions on multiple occasions as well as far as what the status of the UCC is. So let's open this up to our panelists who join us on this broadcast. National spokesperson of the BJP, Sanju Verma, is with me. Congress leader Kamru Chaudhary as well. Lawyer and spokesperson of the JJP, Prateek Som, and political analyst and lawyer joining us on this broadcast as well. Let me open this up with Kamru Chaudhary. The Supreme Court has also said that the UCC is an unaddressed constitutional expectation. The Supreme Court has also observed that they hoped and expected that the state shall endeavour to secure for their citizens a uniform civil code. So now that the process of consultation has begun, why raise hullabaloo over it even before the process has begun? All that the Law Commission is doing is seeking suggestions, seeking objections.
Yeah, basically, madam, the first question that needs to be asked in India is uniformity even desirable for a nation that is as diverse as ours? That has been already addressed by the 2018 Law Commission report that came out, and you have rightly read it out everything. I don't need to repeat it. When there is no uniformity in the Criminal Procedure Code, in the Civil Procedure Code, in the Contract Act, even the states have made hundreds of amendments to the CRPC and the IPC, as well as several amendments to the civil laws. Even you can say about the Uniform Civil Code being operable in Goa, but you take a closer study of what's happening with that state in Goa. There are a lot of issues that needs to be addressed before we even go in a right direction towards a Uniform Civil Code in India. Is the time right? If yes, then let's do it. If not, what will be the right time? That's the biggest question.
But isn't that what this panel is seeking out to judge? Isn't that the scope of the panel?
Yeah, Poonam, that's the biggest question. What changed from 2018 to 2013 that we need 2023 that we need to revisit it again within a span of 4 years? When the Constituent Assembly could not debate and decide on that particular issue and let it remain as it was to have individual laws. Now, when you talk about basically the grounds of the BJP and the right-wing elements in the country is seeking justice for the Muslim women, that's a hypothetical statement they will give you. But basically, you understand that even Hindu laws that were there in 1955, that has been subdivided into 4 different laws.
Yes.
Now you name and you try to understand what are these laws out there. Let's say the Muslim personal law. It is not valid in Jammu and Kashmir because they have got their own traditional laws. You go to Meghalaya, they have got their matriarchal system of governance. You go to Nagaland, they have got their Naga customary laws governing their own policies on their own status. So the basic point is that when you come to the Hinduism, you have got the Mitakshara and the Dayabaga law, which contradict the Uniform Civil Code. Now, how are we going to
which is exactly the point that is being made, Kamru Chaudhary, isn't it? That this does not target one particular community. Like you pointed out, the Hindu community also has varied different laws, and all of them can be brought on one level playing field. That is what the UCC argument, the argument for bringing in a common code is.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
10 seconds I'll take. But basically, Poonam, is not so simple. The agenda here is not to give justice to the women folk or give to justice to the deprived of the country. Basically, it's to vilify a particular community. That's the main agenda of the government of the day out here. It is.
But who's to decide that agenda? And I want to get in Sanju Verma as well. Sanju Verma, the timing of this all is also something that is being raised objection to. That 2024 is not far away. So now you've found a new issue to rally the majoritarian community.
Poonam, I need to make a couple of very quick points. My first point is that under Article 44 of the Constitution, wide the directive principles of state policy, Uniform Civil Code is something that always should have been implemented, not today, but decades back. But because directive principles of state policy have not been legally enforceable for whatever reasons, it is precisely because of that reason that today you and me are still discussing the validity of the Uniform Civil Code. So A, it is mandated by the Constitution. B, I would just like to read out in 20 seconds one of the most pertinent judgments with respect to why Uniform Civil Code is needed. And this was by the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court in July 2021, barely 2 years back. She was hearing a case involving the husband and wife who both belong to the Meena tribe. While the husband wanted divorce as per Hindu, Marriage Act of 1955, the woman wanted as per the Special Marriage Act of 1954. And this is what Pratibha Singh said. She said, in modern Indian society, which is gradually becoming homogeneous, traditional barriers of religion, community and caste are slowly dissipating. The youth of India belonging to various communities, tribes, castes or religions who solemnize their marriages ought not to be forced to struggle with issues arising due to conflicts in various personal laws, especially in relation to marriage and divorce. It is time now for the Uniform Civil Code to become law. This is the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Pratibha Singh, in 2021. Now my third and most important point. Forget about the Delhi High Court. There is a landmark judgment which everyone should be aware of, Poonam. This was in 2017 when Justice Kehar was the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, and in a two-judge bench led by Justice Kehar and even Justice Chandrachud, who is now the Chief Justice, there was a case filed by Clarence Pice. He was the lawyer for a case called the Molly Joseph versus George Sebastian case. He said that divorce should be granted in this particular case based on what the church says. And Justice Kehar and Justice Chandrachud said that personal laws are subservient to the Constitution, and while they do not denounce Christian laws, a divorce by the church is invalid, illegal, and only a divorce granted as per the Constitution under the Indian law will be applicable to the Christian community. And Justice Kehar and Justice Chandrachud said repeatedly that while the founding fathers should have made Article 44 legally enforceable, it did not happen. But that does not take away from the sanctity of the Uniform Civil Code. And my last point, let me tell you that today Muslims, just my last point, Poonam, I don't understand why Muslims are crying, whining and sulking. And let me tell you, I've met many progressive Muslims who are actually very welcoming of the Uniform Civil Code. It is only a small minority of Muslims represented by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, which is nothing but an NGO set up by Indira Gandhi in 1973, who have a problem with the Uniform Civil Code. When you talk to Shia Muslims, they say we want Uniform Civil Code. You talk to Bora Muslims, they say we want Uniform Civil Code.
Sure.
You talk to Ahmadiyya Muslims, they say we want Uniform Civil Code. So who has a problem? It is perhaps the Congress party, which always wants to play on this appeasement vote bank to try and polarize the electorate. Otherwise, I don't think even Muslims en masse have a problem with the Uniform Civil Code, because it is legal, it is constitutionally tenable, and Justice Chandrachud and the likes of Justice Kehar have given a thumbs up to it.
Sure. The problems are many. Whether it's feasible or not, all of that have to be examined. I need to get in the other two gentlemen on the panel as well, but Kamru Chaudhary, you wanted to make a rebuttal, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, basically, it's very wrong, Sanjeev Verma, to bring in any particular religion out here, because bringing in the Uniform Civil Law, according to the Congress party, affects many communities other than on the religious lines. That's another matter that Sanjeev Verma will be jumping in a chair when I say that Islam was the first religion in the world to give some sort of power and authority to the woman. Folk, even inheritance was also defined in the Quran by the Islamic law.
But Kamru Chaudhary, let me stop you right there, because I don't think that the Law Commission or the government is trying to bring in one particular religion at all. No, that's also what I said at the beginning of this debate, that there are varied laws across sections of this country.
I said to that, I never brought in the religion out here. It was Sanjeev Verma who brought in the Bohra community, the Shia community, and creating all the divisions. That's what their agenda is. But the Congress party never said that. Congress party is only saying that in a diverse country with so many customary
But why
laws,
are we talking about the agenda? It's not a BJP exercise that is being carried out. And I want to get in Kapil Madan on that. It is the Law Commission that has asked for objections, suggestions from all stakeholders. The previous Law Commission, in fact, came out and said that the time is not right. We don't need a UCC. It's possible that this Law Commission, after its report, would also say the same thing. So why cry foul even before the process has begun?
Now, Poonam, we need to get into the question of why, the government is doing it. In 2018, first we should understand what has changed between 2018 and 2023. If we go in inquiry of, to seek an answer of this question, we will get to know that this is nothing but a, political gimmick played by BJP to do polarization. And let me give you a legal arguments against UCC. Now, Sanjeev Verma mentioned that directive principle is a part of the Constitution. Yes, of course, it is a part of Constitution, and the issue of UCC finds mention in the Constitution. But we not forget, there are ample judgments authority of the Honorable Supreme Court that says in order to achieve the directive principle, you can't impinge on the fundamental right. So what essentially the Supreme Court on a number of occasions have said, that directive principles are subservient to the fundamental rights. The fact remains I will give you another practical, example to show why the BJP wants to play it politically only. They don't have any, intent to serve the society as such. Now, in our constitution, we have provisions where the reservations are being made on the, basis of caste and, other backward classes. There are provisions to that extent. Now, if the government really wants to bring the UCC, is the government also intends to revoke those fundamental rights or to revoke those policy that has prescribed reservation in favor of backward classes? Now, if it is UCC, the UCC should be across everywhere, across every citizen. I mean, there cannot be any subclass. Now, the fact remains, in our constitution, in our fundamental rights, which have been upheld, and these issues have been adjudicated in, I don't want to quote and, make it technical, but there are several judgments on the, subject where the reservation was upheld by the court. Now, the point is, if you bring UCC, the entire constitutional history, of our independent nation needs to be revisited. So there is, a plain and clear legal practically difficulty in even bringing the UCC.
And no one is denying that. No one is denying the fact that there will be practical issues. Whether this is feasible or not, that is something that this law commission, through its consultation process, will come out and find out. Isn't that the whole point of this exercise? And I want to get in Prateek Som as well. You've been patiently listening to the arguments that have been made. No one is denying, Prateek Som, the kind of difficulties we would face in a country as diverse as ours. But would that is perhaps why we haven't seen a UCC become reality over decades now. But does that mean that India will never be ready to have a law, or that we should completely junk the idea altogether?
See, Poonam, today a difficult question is staring at our face that India, being a secular state, is promoting uniculturalism instead of multiculturalism. See, we have to know, we must know the historical background that Uniform Civil Code first gained significance when a voice was raised in 1930s by the All India Women Conference looking for equal rights for the women, irrespective of religion, in personal laws such as marriage, inheritance, succession, divorce. It was the time when Britishers were ruling India. And why it was not implemented? Because if we'll see the Constituent Assembly debates, Parliament of India at that sensitive time of framing the Constitution, they must have anticipated the imposition of single law upon different religious communities amidst the insecurities of a new nation, Hindu Muslims getting together, and there were insecurities at that time, and hoping for a conducive political and religious environment in India, it was left as a directive principles for the Constitution. Now, what has been done and what is not done? So till now, Muslim personal law has not been codified by the Parliament except the two acts. One is the Sharia Act of 1937 and one is the Muslim Women Divorce Act of 1986. Now, Poonam, the situation is that judges have to rely on Islamic jurisprudence in a case-by-case manner. I, being a lawyer, can tell you that when there are no codified laws, judges have to rely on the case-by-case manner. Now, through judiciary and legislation, there have been some changes in personal laws. Now, the Hindu Succession Act was reformed in Parliament in 2005. Then the Christian divorce rights were made gender equal in 2001. The courts have... I'm giving opinion on what Mr. Kamru Chaudhary and Kunal had said, that the courts have steadily affirmed women's rights of maintenance adoption in various judgments by the Supreme Court. And when the Muslim Talaq Bill judgment was delivered by Supreme Court, central government was advised by Supreme Court for bringing the UCC or giving a comment on it.
Yes.
Then there is Poonam, there is a political perspective as well which has to be seen. Now, in India, almost 78-79% of population is Hindus, and it is believed that while drafting the UCC, it will cater to its majority. There can be an argument, I am not denying that adoption of Uniform Civil Code will be a move to check the belief of minority population in India. That is for legislature to see and check in the parliament. Now, why uniform system of laws be established in this country in purely secular matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance? After all, the human rights make no distinction between one religion and another.
Absolutely, and that's really the point that is being made for those who are batting for this particular law. Irrespective, there are arguments that are being made on both sides of the spectrum. the objections that are being raised, the suggestions that are being made, the entire exercise for the Law Commission to come out and look at whether it's possible or not. That's the entire exercise. Why create a hue and cry even before that exercise begins? Unfortunately, I'm completely out of time, but I thank you all for joining us here on this broadcast.